All right, y'all. I'm not going to play no intro music or nothing like that. I just wanted to come and talk really briefly because I cannot stay here long. And I wanted to make some commentary about I actually looked at a video on the Black Cauldron. I love Old Girl's channel. Uh, and I've been subscribed to her for years. And so I wanted to come and give my very real commentary about menstrual blood and putting your menstrual blood in a man's food. Okay, my opinion. Right out the gates, my first thought on putting period blood in somebody's food, I'm disgusted by it. Okay. I don't agree with putting bodily fluids and things in people's food, in particular period blood, because that is disgusting for you to do that. I think that it's sneaky. I think that it's conniving. I think that I have very strong beliefs about food ethics and food quality. And I don't agree with doing things like that, period. Okay. However, I want to first start off by saying that the whole concept of putting period blood in a man's food, originally the intention was to more so control or dominate him. And as if I have to remind you guys, this type of love domination work was more so done out of necessity. It was done out of necessity, to control the man. Maybe he had a tendency to cheat. Maybe he had a tendency to be abusive. Maybe at the time, the woman couldn't necessarily get away from that man. So originally, period blood in the spaghetti would be a way to control the man in his behavior so that he would not, cheat or beat or abuse the woman. Okay. And that's the same as it goes for love spells, during times when women either could not, because, like I said, witchcraft is very political throughout the years since eons ago. There's always this era or this energy that kind of passes through us earthlings on planet Earth that causes males to become very misogynistic. And so the love spells was done out of necessity so that the woman could have peace in her home, so that this man is not like a maniac. It was done to prevent and to stop abuse. Okay. Because for a brief moment, and it wasn't very long, women were not, allowed to divorce. This was a short time in history compared to how long humans have been on this earth. Okay. But it was not that long ago. Okay, but it still doesn't mean that it was just always like that for women. It wasn't. These things were created and done out of necessity. Now, what I wanted to make a comment about, however, though, is number one, if you're going to do that, you can't do it frivolously. Okay. I'm pretty sure that, for example, if somebody were inexperienced and they said, well, I'm just going to toss some period blood in his spaghetti, I would say, no, you need to consecrate it. You need to put your intention in it, and you don't have to just pour period blood in it. You don't need to pour straight. period blood in anything, it can be diluted by several ounces of water. You know what I'm saying? So to just put straight period blood in something is very frivolous, and it's something that someone inexperienced would do. Okay. So, number one, the period blood is not really consecrated, it also needs to be purified, and you need to set an intention. Now, blood magic is very powerful, but I mean, men and women have sex while the woman is on her cycle, which has the same exact effect. Think about it. Everybody does not sustain from having sex during their period. There are some men out there that they don't mind. They don't care, as long as they getting some. So it has the same effects. You don't have to necessarily put it in his spaghetti. You can actually just have sex with a man. You're getting skin on skin contact. That's actually more powerful than putting it in their food. Okay. Uh, So, it is something that you have to know what you're doing. But then again, what I wanted to bring up, because if you guys have not seen this video on Black Cauldron's channel, go check her out. Go check out the videos, her latest video that she just put up. There's this whole 8 or 9 part series about how this woman is saying that she put period blood in her baby daddy's stuff, and it backfired. And so he ended up cutting or slitting her throat and going to jail. Him cutting or slitting her throat had nothing to do with her period blood. And I did not like how the woman in the video, not the Black Cauldron, but the woman in the video is trying to blame it on the woman putting the period blood, in his spaghetti. No, that dude was just crazy. Okay. And that's why he reacted that way. Also another thing that I wanted to point out is that according to the story, she just kept feeding him this period blood. Like she would just continuously give it to him. You don't have to just pour period blood down this man's throat. In fact, I've been working on some other stuff that has prevented me from saving my menstrual cycle. But I can produce cups, like at least 3 or 4 cups of it, if I were to save every drop of menstrual blood during my cycle. Okay. Um, Yeah, I wouldn't say 3 or 4 cups. Damn, that would be a lot of blood. I can save a lot. It would be at least 1.5 to 2 cups for some reason. Okay. But what I was going to say is that if you're going to use blood magic on a man, you don't have to use but a drop. That's it. You don't give him, copious amounts. If you're going to I personally would never do that at all. Like, I think that because I'm one of those people that's very funny about food quality. Okay. I grew up cooking. My, family, grandmother, aunties all taught me how to cook. I learned about food safety, food integrity from a child. Okay. Seriously. And so I don't agree with doing things like that, messing with people's food that they're going to consume. That does not mean that justifies that man slitting that woman's throat. That man was just crazy. Threatening his own baby, that's called a psychopath. And yes, certain things will have different effects on different people, but that is just what her energy brought out of that man. Okay. I personally would venture out to say, being that her and her child are still alive and he's in prison now, that maybe perhaps the period blood protected her after all, because he cut her throat and she's still alive, which is crazy. But that is, to me, I'm not going to sit here and say that he did those things or he behaved that way because of her period blood. I'm not buying that. That person was a psychopath. Uh, I'm questioning her mental health for her to feel the need to do that. I mean, it's not. I mean, we've all heard of that, right? Like we've all heard of that. Doing that. But I think you have to specify what it is that you want. But then again, you also have to know your partner, because that man was hiding something dark if he threatened his own child, right? Like, part of the story that was being told was where this man threatened to unalive her and his child. No way, no way should we blame the fact that she put menstrual blood in his spaghetti on that type of behavior. It's not going to have that effect on him. Okay. And so like I said, I don't know those people, so I can't really comment on, their psychological profiles. But from what it sounds like to me, he's just psychotic. A lot of the stuff that can be done doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that you should. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. Oh, I don't like that. How's my daughters doing? My daughters are doing fine. They're wonderful. My daughters are doing great. I don't really like to talk about. I know I put up a video of me and my son yesterday, but I don't know. I'm kind of weird about that, since everything happened. But they're doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. Um. Anyway, yeah. No. For that man to cut her throat and threaten his own child, something was just wrong with him. Okay. And putting menstrual blood, to me, in somebody's food is unethical. I would never do something like that. However, I don't believe that that had anything to do with that guy's behavior. Also, you can't just go and do things frivolously. You don't just go and just pour period blood in. So, like you have to consecrate that somehow in some kind of ritual. Okay, you don't just go pouring it in there. If you're gonna do that, you don't just go pouring it in there with without setting some kind of intention. Like I said, it should not even be necessary for anybody to be putting period blood, in their baby daddies. But, well, he wasn't her baby daddy to begin with, but she ended up falling pregnant for him during this whole process of her, putting the period blood in his food. And so she didn't really know him. And then here he goes acting a fool, threatening people, threatening the life of his own child. And I'm not going to accept he did that because of the period blood. I'm sorry. I don't agree with that assertion. In fact, this whole thing in the spiritual community that's going around, I do agree that there's a lot of people in general that don't know what the hell they're doing. I will agree to that, which is a real turnoff for people. It's a real turnoff, and it affects a lot of us real ones. The fact that people don't know what the hell they're doing. Okay. It does. It has an effect, but it is what it is. Okay. You know, part and a part of what it is that you have to have a clear head. You know, what you think about makes a big difference. You know what I'm saying? What you're thinking, what energy you're in. And so, you know, that's why you have to go to somebody that can give you strict advice. But that man was just crazy. It's a lot of men out there that are crazy like that. It's women out there that are crazy like that too. That will go nuts like that. But my assertion is that the dude was just psychotic, and I the period blood didn't have nothing to do with that. Okay, that's my assertion on it. And he didn't do that because he consumed her period blood. That I'm not buying that, and nor do I agree with it. Okay. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say about it. Pretty much my advice would be pretty much my advice would be to stray away from doing that. You know what I'm saying? And create a spiritual husband or two. Some of y'all need a spirit husband team. Create a spiritual husband that will bring a good man to you, because right now what's happening is that it's just happening randomly, and those randoms are not working out. You see how they are not working out for people. What we know about spiritual husbands is the negative aspect of it. What you create is something different, though, right? If you create a spiritual husband that's going to come to you in the physical, that's just like, and it's not that you created it. I believe that God created it. I believe that spirit created it. But I believe that on some level, with all of the confusion and the chaos and the agendas and things of that nature, and it being a fact that there are a lot of people who have an invested interest on controlling your destiny and your reality. I believe that you lose people in translation. So that's the same thing with, I didn't create my spiritual coven. I just opened up the doorway so that, well, number one, they could be found. I'm gonna talk to y'all about that though later, about my coven that I shared with you guys. I'll talk to you guys about that at a later time. So I didn't create it. The coven is already created. Those people exist. I'm just creating a reality where they can actually manifest in the physical. So, we'll talk about that later. But going back to what I was saying about spiritual husbands, if you create your own spiritual husband that is going to open up the doorways so that the right person, can come into your life, then that is better. It's not that you're creating the person, but you are creating a reality where you're going to actually eventually meet the right person for you, or at least better people, better options. Maybe more options will come up, and instead of guys, sorry about that. I accidentally clicked the thing and something happened. So, because it is a fact that for a lot of y'all, your reality is being manipulated and created. Okay. And believe it or not, it's witchcraft. All of it is witchcraft. Religion is witchcraft as well. It's all witchcraft. Okay. It's all manipulation for purposes of different many. Okay. But your purpose is going to be for what? Life, happiness, love, the things that you want. Okay. Um, anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you guys. If y'all want to know more about the concept of creating spiritual husbands, so that you can do that for friends too. Some of y'all want friends. Some of y'all want people that you can, get along with. All of those people can be created, but not created. You're not creating those people, but you are creating a reality where you can actually meet those people or commune with those people in real life, right? The people that is meant for you to, you know, be around or talk to. So, anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. I gotta go. Have a good one. Make sure y'all hit that thumbs up, and I will see y'all later. Okay, bye bye.